Hi everyone, it's August 30th, 2020, and it's hard to believe, but about 10 years have passed since I created this channel, and I want to thank you for watching this video ahead of time. So, today we're going to do chapter 2. Today we're going to talk about why diets don't work, and this is, again, based on the same book that I still have. And this really feels like unfinished business to me, so this is why we're doing this, and I've not read this before, but I thought we could read it together. So this says, why diets don't work, and why you're not a failure. Before we begin learning the new approach, I want you to know why diets do not work. This will help explain why you have not been successful and give you more hope that you are not a failure and that you can do this program. Diets do not work because they are basically just making the food behave. When we have taken out the sugar and replaced it with an artificial sugar, thrown out the fat and replaced it with an artificial fat, thrown out the calories and replaced them with non-caloric fluff or indigestible hay, we have made the food behave or change. We have not changed our own behavior. We do not have to change how much food we chew and swallow, because the food itself has changed to larger volumes of low-calorie content. So yeah, that we see that a lot today. So many yummy things come with like a guilt-free sort of advantage, I guess you can say. I know I at this point I love Sunkist, like the diet one, and I know it's probably poison, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure sodas are generally not a great thing. But oh my gosh, it's so good, and it really does satisfy that craving for like orange Fanta or Crush. Have you had those? Those are so good, and this is just, I mean, so good with like, sorry, I don't mean to. This is exactly what the book is telling us not to do. Anyway, so she talks about pills, liquid fast, appetite suppressants, how these are just changing the environment, but it's not really changing you. So they're like taking aspirin for a fever. Yes, the fever goes down temporarily, but as soon as the aspirin effects wear off, the fever goes back up. Why? It is because the aspirin does not get to the root of the problem. In this case, she's saying the bacterial infection, which it makes sense. Antibiotics would be the one thing that you would need, and that's what she says. So she's really sharing about her Way Down workshop, and this is one thing I wanted to say. I am not endorsing yet. We're just reading, because this was the whole purpose. What she is saying is that her workshop will not ask the food to behave. Instead, we will teach you how to behave. But that's what we want to get to. We want to know how to, right? More importantly, we will teach you how God can take away the desire to overeat. Just as dieting does not help your heart desire less food, neither does exercise. So it has the virtue for physical training, but there's no substitute for exercise when it comes to muscle toning, cardiovascular conditioning, and bone strengthening. So there's a highlighted part here that says, the only exercises we insist on are getting down on your knees to pray and getting the muscle of your will to surrender some of the extra food you have been eating. So let me tell you, unrelated to this book, I watched a video on fasting, and obviously it's not for everybody. There are some stipulations as far as how old you are or your medical condition, whether you're pregnant, whether you're sick, how young you are, how old you are. Those things are things to take into consideration before thinking about fasting. But this is a faith-based fasting that I'm considering. And let me tell you, the days that I do fast, and not eating, but like having water and bread, and in my case right now I'm doing like a really low carb bread that I bake myself, if you can call it baking, because it's really, right now, the last one I made was in the microwave, super easy. But anyway, so I do feel that it honestly, it's hard. Like, not in the beginning because you're like, I'm gonna try this, and you're like, oh, well, I'm doing it just for today, and it's fine. And then, like, I'm trying to do it twice a week, and it really exercises your willpower. And I feel like whenever you exercise willpower and you pray, I mean, amazing things happen. Not only that, I feel that the self-discipline and self-control that you employ to be able to, not eat other things that you are in your perfect right to eat, that you have at home, that are healthy even, it exercises that discipline and it spreads to different parts of your life. And this is something that I didn't quite realize, but it's almost like, making your bed first thing in the morning. It sets you off right. Okay, well, exercising this discipline of not eating something that you could very well just eat, it's one way of strengthening your decision making, your willpower. And it really, for me at least, has made me do more efficiently, make myself be more patient when I don't want to be as patient. So I really highly recommend it. And this is totally off the script, so let's go back to the book. But I could definitely talk about this more if you wanted me to. Okay, so she says here, the body was made perfectly. You will be learning to listen to it and trust God's programmed signals. I like that. This is from the Bible, so I'm going to read it. It says, these are some of her foundational verses in which they founded their workshop. It says, again, not part of the workshop, I like the idea of going to God for self-control, because really this is what it is. Sometimes we overeat, and it's more to satisfy a craving, to satisfy our anxiety, our worries, to make something that is hard to do a little less stressful. It gives us that rush of oxytocin, and I think it makes us more likely to do the things we don't want to do. Put that snack in your mouth, chew that candy or that chip while you're doing something that you're not so happy doing, or as you're having an argument and walking away from an argument or whatever, walking in the kitchen and finding yourself in front of the ice cream. It's happened to me. I'm totally familiar. I think it's more common that we like to admit, and I think I didn't realize I did it until not too long ago, honestly, like maybe a couple years or maybe a few more, but I didn't realize I did it. Sometimes I would be upset about something, and then before I knew it, I was just like looking for something in the kitchen. Why? I think that's why God is so important in any sort of weight loss program. Okay, I digress. So she cites Colossians 2:16 and 20 to 23. Therefore, do not let anyone judge you by what you eat or drink, since you died with Christ to the basic principles of this world. Why, as though you still belong to it, do you submit to its rules? Do not handle, do not taste, do not touch. These are all destined to perish with use, because they are based on human commands and teachings. Such regulations indeed have an appearance of wisdom, with their self-imposed worship, their false humility, and their harsh treatment of the body, but they lack any value in restraining sensual indulgence. I have not read this directly from the Bible, and I don't know if it's been changed at all. I do not understand it at this point. I would have to really go back. This is what she says. The passage above is mainly a discussion of man-made rules versus God's rules. What does God really want for mankind? When God had called his dear children out of Egypt and set them apart so they would be distinguished from other nations as pure, holy, rich, and blessed, he gave them separate food rules. It says here, when Jesus came to earth, he explained that prior to his arrival, the outside had to be clean, but now the use of external cleanliness to symbolize cleanliness of the heart is de-emphasized, because Jesus has made it possible for us to actually be clean on the inside. Okay, now God can be near us without the food rules. Jesus set us free from those tedious rules. Even without them, we can enter the most holy place, God's presence. I do agree in the sense that all the previous rules for what could be eaten or couldn't be eaten, I think they had also some protective reason, and I do believe that God did not accidentally leave the basic 4 food groups out of the Bible. What does that mean? Oh, I like this. Listen. Remember the words of Jesus in Mark chapter 7, verses 14b through 20. Listen to me, everyone, and understand this. Nothing outside a man can make him unclean by going into him. Rather, it is what comes out of a man that makes him unclean. After he had left the crowd and entered the house, his disciples asked him about this parable. Are you so dull? He asked. Whoa, I don't remember that. Don't you see that nothing that enters a man from the outside can make him unclean? For it doesn't go into his heart but into his stomach, and then out of his body. In saying this, Jesus declared all foods clean. He went on, what comes out of a man is what makes him unclean. So it is whether what you do is right or wrong, right? Let me read the highlights because there's a lot in this chapter. It says here, it seems so right to count fat grams, but doing so never stops the heart from wanting more. I like this part here. To sum up the verses, God does not care about what we eat. Do not let others judge us, and do not feel self-righteous about following those man-made rules. What God does care about is how much we eat. God cares about and is displeased with overindulgence. Here are some foundational points, and she lists. Stop dieting for two major reasons. First, it makes you focus on yourself and your body. Second, it makes you focus on food. The more you focus on planning, buying, preparing, cooking, serving, and eating the food, the stronger the magnetic pull to the refrigerator. In other words, dieting provides the perfect setup to accelerate your love for food. Okay, I can see how if your life pretty much revolves around your diet, all you're thinking about is food. I can see that. The second point says, do not focus on what people think. Stop allowing people to judge you when you are eating pecan pie or regular foods of any kind. Every time you find yourself wondering what people think, turn your attention straight upward to God and look only for His approval. Similarly, stop feeling self-righteous when you have pulled the fat out of a recipe and made the food behave. It's time to relearn how to be righteous, do things God's way by making your mouth behave. Stop feeling like a failure. You have not overcome overeating because you have applied the wrong medicine to this condition. It's time to start over with new hope. You can change your heart's focus. I like that hopeful message. Understand that this behavior you are tackling is overindulgence. Overindulgence leads a person to desire something on this earth to make him feel good. Our loving God will give you this feeling so that you no longer have to look for it from things on this earth. It is time to direct that desire upward to God to let Him fill you. For what you are hungering and thirsting for is God. Another key to unlocking the mystery of permanent weight control, making the food behave, will not work. Admitting we need to behave with God's help is the beginning of the end of overweight. And with that, we are closing this chapter. That's the end of this chapter, and with this, we'll say goodbye. Our next chapter will be It's Not Genetics or Your Mother's Fault. I hope you enjoyed this reading, and this is interesting. I obviously do not know where she stands in her faith, what sort of denomination. So many things have happened between when I found this book and how old I was, and how I was just reading it, and now sometimes I have a few opinions. I hope that doesn't bother you. And if you have any comments or you have any questions or you would like me to talk about something else, then I would be so happy to be there. Thank you for sticking this long. And by the way, if you stuck this long, let me just share something with you. So I was on YouTube since 2008 or 2009, when what YouTube is now was not, and since then I've started maybe 4 different channels, just hoping that someday I would share. I did have some channels that I worked on for 30 days, and then other channels that I worked for many years. I love to sing, and so if you're willing to stop by there and check some of the videos out, I would love for you to do that. That channel is called Karen Stella777. That's one of them. And then there is StellaOfMine, which is my most recent channel, that doesn't have any subscribers. This is premiered right here. Basically, that's gonna be a channel where I think I might be sharing a little more than I share over here about my thoughts and probably my life. I am bilingual, which is why my English is not perfect. I hope you're bearing with me. But anyway, I just want to thank you for sticking all the way to the end. I hope that you're having a really beautiful day, and if you're struggling with weight, you know, you're not alone. A lot of us go through those trials. I'm still on that journey, and I might be making some mistakes along the way, but it's always nice to know there's someone out there who's also struggling, who's also looking for answers. And if that's one of you, then I hope that you'll subscribe. Go find me over in Karen Stella 777 and StellaOfMine. And yep, I hope to see you on the next video. Kisses. Bye.